Okay, Hilchos Chanuka. Tafresh Ayin Zayin Din Achsanai B'Chanuka. So the halacha of guests who are sleeping away from home. So Aleph. Achsanai, it's a guest, sleeps at someone's house. She'ein madlikin alav bevesa. If there's nobody lighting for him at home, does it say the other half again? Right. If you have your wife lighting for you at home, then you're good. You don't have to light. It's two ways to learn it. Either you're pater, Chazal give you a chance to get scot-free. Your wife is lighting for you. Or the other way of learning is it's usher for you to light. Because you're already pater, because your wife is lighting for you. Okay, we'll see a bit more later. Again, so now, what do? If someone's lighting for you at home, you don't have to light when you're a guest at someone else's house and you're sleeping over. But if nobody's lighting for you at home, tzarich lateit pruta lebal habayit lishtatev imo. So you have to light, you're chayav to light. So how do you do it? You give some money, or oil money, to the Baal Habayit, and he lights for you. When he lights, he has you in mind, and you have in mind to be Yotzei through him. So you give him actual, it's for the shemen, or towards the wax, whatever you're using. Okay. If you're not sure if someone's lighting for you at home, then again, you join in, or you say a bracha. You don't say a bracha though, you light without a bracha because you don't know. Or you just mishtatev anyway. And this way you're covered. Okay, let's keep reading. Now, let's say you have your own room, and your own room has a separate door to the outside, to the Rosh Hashanah. Okay, this doesn't apply nowadays, but if in those days, when they were worried about chashad in those days, so if you had this, again, yesh lo petach patuach le'atzmo, to your door, so then sarich lahadlik bepitcho, then you light another menorah at your door without a bracha, but it's only because of chashad. Right? People might think you're not lighting. Alpha pisha oto bait eno miyuchad el l'shena, even though you're just sleeping there, and you're eating at the same table of where you're staying. So it's just because of chashad. And nowadays, again, we mentioned we don't have this chashad anymore because people often don't see other people lighting, and no one's going to come to think, oh, he's not lighting candles the whole night. And so too, if even a son, he's eating at his father's, if he has a separate room where you have its own doorway, so in those days there was chashad, even a son would also have to light since he has his own door, to the public. Hagav, v'yesh omrim d'bazmana zeh shemadlikim bifnim mamash, the Rama says nowadays we light indoors, so therefore yadlik b'makom she'ochel, just light where you're eating, v'chen nagu. In other words, there's no issue of chashad whatsoever. When we finish, we'll wrap up a little bit, put a couple things together. Such as what's optional or not optional. So bet, let's just keep reading a little. When we finish Dalet, we'll come back, or finish Gimel. Bet, katan shegiya lechinuch tzarich lahadlik. So someone who's a katan, who's giya lechinuch, so then he has to light. So either he has to light midin chinuch, or there is an opinion that says he's actually chayav if he lives on his own, or you can use him as a shaliach. Okay, we don't pass it in that way. It has to be a gadol. But, okay. Gimel. Yesh omrim she'afal pisha madlikin alav betoch beso. So someone say, even though someone's lighting for you at home, imhu b'makom she'ein bo Yisrael, but you're sleeping in a place all by yourself. Right? We mentioned this case sort of earlier. You're all on your own, and no one in the house is lighting, and you look outside the windows, nobody's lighting, you're among the goyim. So what do you do? Like a hotel? So a hotel, you would be, some point out, for a hotel you're going to be chayav also because you're paying, and there's no real Baal Habayit. You're the Baal Habayit. So it doesn't have the same din as an achsanai. So in a hotel you would be chayav. Although, it's probably machlokas. We'll just leave it like that. If someone's lighting for you at home, there's a lot of these cases, it's totally unclear from Chazal, Rishonim, even Achronim. They don't really discuss, there's a myriad of little details that are generally not discussed anywhere, except for either not discussed ever, or just very modern poskim here and there, shaila here and there. I don't know, like what happens if both the wife and the husband are both going out of town and they're both sleeping in separate houses? Again, you get a myriad of answers. So, okay, we'll skip. We'll have to focus more on the Shulchan Aruch and where it's machlokas issues. Yesh omrim shafal pisha malikan al b'mitoch beiso im hu b'makom she'ein bo Yisrael. You're all on your own. Madlik bivrachos. So then you say a bracha and when you light, because there's no persume nisa being accomplished with anybody else. Okay, Haga. Now, ki chayav liros haneros v'chenoagin, because everyone's chayav to see the lights, and either chayav in saying the brachos, or unless you're yotzei through your wife. But you have to at least see them. If you're in a place where it's not shaykh to see hadlakas haneros, then you light, even if your wife is lighting for you. V'afilu im eitzel Yehudim v'ro'eh haneros. Now the Ramah adds, this is more for the Ramah's psak, that because you know the Ramah paskins like the Rambam, you're allowed to have many menorahs in one house. So he writes, so even if you are staying with many Jews, im rotze lahachmir al atzmo ulahalik bifnei atzmo madlik umevarech aleim v'chen noagin. So basically he's saying, even if you are a guest, so you learn, according to the Ramah's learning, which is more based on the Rambam Shita, that since you're a guest, Chazal just gave you a way out. Just pay some money and you don't have to deal with buying and setting up the candles. But if you want to, you're allowed to. And you're allowed to say a bracha as well. So, but happens to be the Esem Achlokas. So, generally, the poskim of the Sfardim, they would say, you're pater, and therefore, there's no longer an obligation for you, and you can't even light and say a bracha if you want to. Again, you can light, but you can't say a bracha really. By Ashkenazim, it's a split among the poskim of Ashkenazim. Many do say to say a bracha just like the Ramah. If you're a guest, you have the option of lighting with the bracha. That's if you're sleeping there, not just going there for dinner. There are Shulchan and others. The Mishnah Berurah here says it could be you are Chazal pater you, and you can't. So the Mishnah Berurah says it's better to light without a bracha, or call up your wife and make sure you make up with her that you're going to light before her. Have in mind you're not yotzei through her, and then jump the gun and light candles before she light candles, because until she lights her candles, you're still obligated. So that's the way that the Mishnah Berurah says you can say a bracha.
Bal karcha, you can't say. Have in mind, I'm not yotzei with those candles.
So that's the machlokas. That's exactly the machlokas, if you're able to. So Safek Sahakal, Mishnah Berurah says not to say bracha unless you do what he says. His way out. Just a couple real quick things. Let's say a dormitory. What are in the dormitory? So just generally by Sephardic poskim, they all say the boys are pater because they're somech hashulchan avim. Their main home is their parents. Even though most of the year they're sleeping at the dormitory, their main home is their parents. And since they're somech on them, they're pater through their parents. And since you're pater, it's actually asur to say a bracha. So for Sephardim, they would either not light, or give some money to their Ashkenazi friends, or they give it to, or they light without a bracha. The one caveat is, let's say you're lighting in two different time zones, kind of like what the Mishnah Berurah said. Let's say you're in different time zones, and you're not going to be lighting at the same time, so they do say you should light with the bracha. And they do say also, if you want, you can also time it, and just make sure, tell your father, you light first. You can light at Shkia, let's say, and your father would light at Seis. And as long as you light beforehand, they do say you are allowed to light with the bracha, if you want.
So a yeshiva bacha, for example, in Shulchan Ashkenazi should light themselves.
So that's about to get to. So for Ashkenazim in a dormitory, anywhere in the world, including Yerushalayim, so generally all poskim say they're chayav to light. either minadin, because most of the year they're sleeping in the Pnimiyah, or based on the Rambam Ramashita that says everyone's allowed to light, as many times over. So, but I think most, Shevet Alevi, and I think most others, most will say it's because it's a chiyuv. But anyway, so they light with the bracha. So I think that's the meaning by all Ashkenazim, they light with the bracha. The only question is where to. And that's a split minhag, or a split psak, in your bedroom, cheder ochel, where, and a lot of it just really depends on the circumstances. If they're going to be there, no one's going to be there. It's the same building, different building, so I'll have to save that for each individual case. What's very applicable now is, what if you're in the army? What do you do? So there, no one's living in the army, and at least generally speaking, and at least where it applies that no one's living there. I don't think people generally consider themselves a resident of an army base, but again, I don't know. But generally speaking, when you're in the army, you're out nowadays you're full of tents or under the stars.
Or in the enemy's apartment.
Right, or the enemy's apartment building. So what do? So we just had this in Gimel. So everybody, Ashkenazim and Sfardim, it doesn't matter. Even if your wife is lighting for you at home, you still light with the bracha on the field. Because without you, there's no one lighting. So the general psak is everyone's allowed to light. Again, should you have many or one? That's old machlokas. But the ikar psak is everyone lights at least one, or everybody lights with the bracha, so that it's lit with the bracha, everyone sees it. The only machlokas comes out in the army is what about a tent? So many poskim say it still has to have a bias, you have to have a roof. So if you have a tent or a roof, you light with the bracha. If you're out in the open and there's no tent to light to, so it's a machlokas. I think most will say safek brachos ahakal, but some will say to light with the bracha. Okay, that pretty much covers that. Now, let's go to Daled. Notar, this we touched upon. Notar bayom hashmini. Now you come, a separate topic. On the first day, you have all your leftover oil. Notar bayom hashmini min hashem. Hatzarich l'shiur adak. You had all your leftover shemen, that's for the first 30 minutes. Some have leftover shemen from the first 30 minutes. Then you have to burn it so that you can't get hanafa. Because for the first 30 minutes the shemen was utza for the mitzvah. But if it was the leftovers, or someone put in, or when you initially put in the oil so much more that it's going to last way more than 30 minutes beyond seis, so it's the muksa part is batal barov. So all these cases it's mutter anyway. By the way, someone asked me about the wicks. So the wicks is better just to put it in a plastic bags. It's really garbage, but you don't want to put it with any disgusting garbage. So it has to be clean garbage. Some save it for beer.
Supposed to burn the oil that's left over.
Right. Okay, it's not usually an issue, but it could be. It definitely could be. Now, what if you have the shemen that's aser, but then it gets mixed with other shemen, and the kosher shemen or mutter shemen is not batal b'shishim. So then yesh mi she'omer she'ema usif alav kadei levatlo. There's an opinion that says lachatchila you shouldn't add more to it, but many do say you are allowed to, because with all Yisuri derabanan, you are allowed to be mosif levatel lechatchila. So that's a machlokas in your idea. Fine. You can use it for another mitzvah. Good question.
Why
not?
Leftover Hanuka oil, and you want to use it to light Shabbos.
I think we learned you're not allowed to, or especially the Ramaz as against using it, even from one to another. So if it's from the first 30 minutes,
from the first 30 minutes.
So then afterwards you can do anything you want with
First
it.
30 minutes you have a problem.
Right. After 30 minutes you can use it for anything you want.
The first 30 minutes,
But,
you set aside that the oil is...
That's during the Isser is not but the Isser is still the token. Right? But the Israel, they tarogas, since the whole issue. So that's
okay, Tafresh Ayin Chet. Tafresh Ayin Chet. Ner Shel Shabbos Kodem Hanukkah. Okay, the next ones are going to read pretty quickly for the most part. Aleph. Mi she'ein liyado maseket liknot ner Chanukah v'ner Shabbos. It should never happen. A person doesn't have enough money for both. Can only buy Neros Chanukah or Neros Shabbos. But maybe it's just to teach us the principle. Which comes first? Yikned ner Shabbos mipnei shalom beito. Important shalom bayis. That's number one. Again, all you need is one candle for eating for Shabbos, and then if you have extra money, you don't have to. If you have 11 people or 2 candles, whatever it is, you don't have to have. You only need one for Shabbos, and then if you have leftover, then you buy for Chanuka. And Mishnah Berurah says it's actually better if you have enough for 10 candles, spend more for Shabbos for Chanuka, because that's Mahadran Mina Mahadran. Anyway, but essentially Shabbos comes first. V'im yesh lo shel Shabbos ve'ein lo ner Chanuka. You have for Shabbos, but you don't have for ner Chanuka. Ula yayin ula kiddush hayom. You don't have enough for all those. For Chanuka, yayin, and kiddush, what comes first? Yiknele ner Chanuka. Then comes ner Chanuka mishum pirsume nisa. That's more important than having wine for Havdalah or kiddush. Hagavu adin ner Chanuka kodem leyain Havdalah. So too before Havdalah. So just a quick recap. What's the order? It's bread for the meal. I threw that in there. Then comes ner Shabbos. Then comes ner Chanuka. Then comes yain for Havdalah, and then kiddush. We learn Havdalah is more important because you can say kiddush on bread. Okay, Tafresh Ayin Tet. Aleph. Be'erev Shabbos. What do you do on Erev Shabbos? Madliki ner Chanukah tchila, v'achar kach ner Shabbos. So first you light ner Chanukah, and then you light ner Shabbos. Right? Haga. Umevarech aleim kuma b'chol, and you say all the regular brachos you would say during the week. It does just because you light early doesn't matter. Afal pisha madlikin ba'od hayom gadol. Even though if you're lighting much earlier in the day, much earlier in the day means after plag hamincha, and you have to make sure you have enough for 30 minutes after tseis. Many point out that lachatchila, again, if it makes you not miss work or ruins your day, don't do that. But if you can, then it's ideal to daven mincha first, and then go home and light candles for Chanukah, and then then accept Shabbos afterwards. Because it's not a real problem, but it looks a little bit like a tarti de satre. First, because Chanukah is for Shabbos night, and then mincha is for Friday. So you want to get things in order, and not start jumping back and forth between Friday night and Friday day.
It says in Orach Chaim k'moy v'chol, but don't we have a minimum of saying Ma'os Sur after?
So Ma'os Sur, do whatever your minhag is, but that's not part of the brachas.
Make sure you don't get too close to Shkia.
Now, if someone makes a mistake and they light their Shabbos candles first, we learned you're supposed to light Neros Chanukah. Then you do Shabbos. What happens if you light Shabbos first? So if you're a guy, no problem, you can still light Chanukah, because the stama assumption is when you light candles, you're not accepting Shabbos. Unless beferush you accepted Shabbos, then you're stuck. You can't light. Ask someone else to do it for you.
Candles, for Shabbos, he's not being makabel Shabbos with that.
Mistama, he's not. That's the stama does. So therefore, usually they go to shul, mincha, whatever. The stama, it depends. Every person's different. So if you're different, you're different. I'm not comparing you to a lady, but for this halacha, that's fine. But but for a lady, when she light candles, she does stama accept Shabbos. So when she lights, if she lit candles Neros Shabbos first, and she was appointed to then light Neros Chanukah, well, she can't. Unless she specifically said, I'm not accepting Shabbos. Or at least kept it in mind is probably enough. So then she has to get someone else.
Why can't she make the bracha and he do it, and the other person does the lighting?
Generally we say whoever does the lighting says the bracha. And there's no reason for you to do otherwise. Tafresh Pei. Shelo lahaniach haneros samach hapetach b'leil Shabbos Aleph. B'leil Shabbos tzarich litein shum davar lachutz bein haneros lapetach. Now it's really all week. But I guess it was a bit more of an issue on Erev Shabbos. When you open up the door, it can be windy outside, or the movement of the door itself could cause wind, and you don't want your neros to blow out. So make sure you have some kind of glass or some kind of a separation to protect your candles from blowing out. So that the wind doesn't blow out the candles when you open the door. And depending on the situation, it could be a psik reisha, it could be an isser deraisa of to open up the door. By opening it, you could be blowing the candles out. So you might. So that just depends on the situation. Base. Be'erev Shabbos asur likboa haneros b'delet atzma achorei dalet. On Erev Shabbos, because the doors you want to open and close the door, it's asur to hang your menorah. I've never seen this, but it's asur to hang your menorah on the door itself. Because as you're opening and closing the door, you're going to be moving the oil, and apparently that will make it come closer or farther away from the wick, and it'll affect how much it draws up or less, more or less, and it could be an issue of mechabe or mavir. And the issue is not really an issue of muksa, because the door itself is chashuv, but it isn't, and it's also attached, but it is an issue of kibui and havara. Yesh nishamatir, but the halacha is clearly yaser.
Yeah? During the week it's okay.
During the week it's as long as it won't make it blow out. Anyway, it's not really the mice. No one does this, but just you can't make it blow out. Afresh pei aleph. Ein mavdilin b'ner Chanuka b'motzei Shabbos. Okay, we don't do Havdalah. You can't use the same candle for Havdalah and Neros Chanukah. Right, one you have to get benefit to, and one it's usher to get benefit from. Aleph. B'motzei Shabbos ein madlikin b'ner Chanukah. So it's a Motzei Shabbos. We don't do Havdalah with the Ner Chanukah. She'ein nehen l'or. You're not allowed to get benefit from it. Ein mavdilin. What did I say? Oh, ein mavdilin. Thank you. Ein mavdilin b'ner Chanukah. You can't do Havdalah with the Ner Chanukah. She'ein nehenin le'oro ve'ein mevarchin al haner ad she'osu le'oro. Because you only say bracha from Mirei Ha'esh when you can actually get benefit, when you can see it, when you're close enough. You don't have to get benefit, but it has to be close enough that you could get benefit after you're seeing it. So that's the idea. And what do you do? First, base. Madliki ner Chanukah b'Beit Knesset kodam Havdalah. So what do you do first? So the Shulchan Aruch just talks about the Beit Knesset. You first do Neros Chanukah, and then you do Havdalah. Kodam Havdalah. Okay? Everyone's going to leave and run out, so that's important. It's also Pirsume Nisa. So that's, okay. And you also want to push off ending Shabbos as much as possible. So those are the three reasons why you want to do Havdalah last. However, Haggah, the Haggah says that's the same thing in your house. First you light, and then you do Havdalah. Especially since you already did Havdalah. But in the home, and that is the minhag, I think, everywhere for Beit Knesset. For people's homes, some people actually prefer to do, and I think that's what most people do, but it's a big split among the poskim. What to do first? I think by Ashkenazim it's split. The poskim, if you look it up, but I think most do the same as the Sfardim. For them, everyone agrees you do Havdalah first. So most of us, I think, we do Havdalah first. And what's the reason for that? It's more tadir. Malacha, so you want to have lighting candles for the menorah, so you want to first do Havdalah to say Havdalah before you start doing more malachas. And also, you're playing with fire. And you want to, right, and you want to say the bracha, Borei Mirei Ha'esh, on fire as soon as possible before you start using it all night. So that's what's behind it. Okay, maybe we'll do a little bit more, and then you'll let me know what to do next. Din al Hanissim b'Chanukah. Aleph. Kol shmonas yemei Chanukah omer al Hanissim v'birkas hamazon v'birkas haaretz u'batfila v'birkas modim. Here. So, for the 8 days, everyone knows we say al Hanissim. Birkas hamazon, right, in the second bracha, and in tefillah in birkas of modim, because it's a haudah. It's all about saying thank you. Some point out, I saw in Yalkut Yosef, that you shouldn't rush through al Hanissim to make it to kedusha if you're but whatever, it all depends how much you have to rush or not. You don't want to lose kavanah either. It's not worth it. And so that's why it's there, because of it's all about Hoda, so that's why you put it into Modim, and that's why it's in the Noda, the second bracha. Now, it's not in Me'ein Shalosh, right? We don't mention it during Me'ein Shalosh. So just a few quick reasons why don't we mention it Al Hanissim in Me'ein Shalosh, like Ala Mechya. So one of them is because Al Hanissim is only the Rabbanan, so they weren't as makpid for it. Also, it's not mentioned in the Bavli, it's only mentioned in Yerushalmi. Another reason is it's Reshut, it's only optional to say Al Hanissim. So for Me'ein Shalosh, they were less makpid. Me'ein Shalosh, we only have things that you're asking for. And this is pure Hoda when we say Al Hanissim. So it doesn't exactly fit in. Another one is, it's not Me'akev B'diavad in Tefillah. So that we're about to see. And let's see that here. V'im lo amar, and if you didn't say Al Hanissim, ein achzirino, you never have to go back. Umil im niskar be'ota bracha, but if you realize in the middle of that same bracha, before you say Baruch Ata Hashem, right? Kol zman shelo hizkir et Hashem, hafilu nizkar bein ata Hashem chozer. Once nizkar bein ata Hashem chozer. As long as you say Baruch Ata Hashem, then you can go back. Once you say Shem Hashem, you don't say Lam Deni Chukecha. You already said Hashem's name, you finish off the bracha, and you missed Al Hanissim.
Baruch Atah.
Yes.
If you say Baruch Atah, you go back. Yeah. If you say Baruch Atah Hashem, you don't go back anymore. That's the line. Haga Yeshomim kishashachak Al Hanissim Rikas Hamazon kishamagia laharachaman Yomar harachaman yaselanu nisim v'nifos kashem she'asita lavatenu b'mahem v'zmanazeh b'mei mati tiyahu. So if you forget it, you could just say it later on at the end of Tefillah. They say also, or at the end of benching, but just say it as like a harachaman. Yeah, I think we'll stop.